Good evening everyone, it's shakedown time with Bertie the Bentley. So I went down to Worthing, picked it up. You may have seen that video, if not you can bore yourself to tears watching it. So I took the train down to Worthing, picked up Bertie, my 9 grand Bentley, with limited MOT and misfire and engine warning lights on. It's a little bit of a gamble, but although I'll go through the paperwork with you in a bit so you can see what I based my decision on. But he's now been fully serviced, which included all the plugs replacing. He hadn't had a service, as far as I can make out with the paperwork that I've got for him, since it was serviced at just shy of 20,000 miles by Bentley main agent back in 2007. So basically, as far as I can tell, he's done 17,000 miles without a service over about 17-18 years, so 1,000 miles a year. And to be fair, by keeping the levels topped up, I can imagine why somebody might not send him in for a service. He's had other work done, so it's not like he's been uncared for, and maybe somebody just didn't realise how many miles they'd clocked up, because he was a second home, lived at a second home with a guy that owned it, and so only got used occasionally. So anyway, we had misfire on 6 cylinders according to the computer readout, so replaced all the plugs which were absolutely shot, which ties in with the 20,000 mile service and the 17,000 miles since, and all the plugs back in, and we got rid of all but one misfire on cylinder number 6. So on cylinder number 6 we replaced the coil, and that cured that problem. So full service, set of plugs and one coil, and that got the engine management light out, that got the engine running smoothly. MOT, not one thing fitted to get it through the MOT, so she passed with flying colours. And it has been MOT'd every year as far as I can see since time began. But so that's the story so far. So I've put about £1 grand into him basically with the service and MOT, so now he stands me at 10 grand. So still a cheap car. The bodywork's amazing. I'm going to turn you around now. I'm going to have a quick look around the bodywork, go through one or two things that still need a bit of attention, and talk you through my thought process when I was buying him. So we'll spin you around. So here he is in all his glory, and I have to say the colour to me just gets better and better. Now, he's not been valeted or anything. All I've done is pressure washed him a few times. Things to point out: this apparently is a very rare factory order vented front wings, or front arches. So it's got a little chrome grill in there. That was an expensive factory option, and hardly anybody specified it, so I'm not sure what useful function it serves, but Bertie's got it on, and it's a bit of bling, isn't it? But as you can see, the paintwork really is in very good order. The only thing is, there's a scratch above the driver's door where it looks like somebody's put something on the roof. Somebody suggested it might even be a woman putting her handbag up there, but anyway, who knows or dares to dream. We've got no rear spoiler operation. Apparently the mechanism's fouled up, so we'll probably have to get something off a scrapper if we want that to work again. We've got no rear brake light, but as the headlining needs doing, I've been told that we probably need to look at the wiring to the light. I'm not too worried about that. It's not an MOT failure, as we've just proved. There's the ample rear end, and I know at this distance you don't see too many imperfections, but there's really no scrapes and scratches at all, apart from this one on the roof, which is there. I don't know whether you can see that in the light, but it's a nasty-ish scratch. But hey ho, it's a 20-year-old vehicle. I mean, I'm 21 years old, so I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that. And we've got one hubcap missing, so they're like a lovely spoked wheel, but for some reason they have this sort of plastic 5-spoke hubcap that fills the middle of the spokes, which I don't know, I think that's a bit of a waste. But anyway, they're quite unusual. They're BBS wheels. I think they were an option back in the day. Fantastic set of tyres on it. It's also had the front suspension mounts replaced at 36,000 miles. So there, yeah, you can see. So I think that I've seen a 5-star sort of hubcap that ends about here, and I'm going to get one of those and see if it fits. And if it does, I'm going to change the lot to that, because I think the wheels look quite good with open spokes. But there you go. Interior is pretty good. There's a bit of wear and tear on the driver's seat. It's a bit dirty, but we're having the valet next week, and then we'll do a bit of recolouring, because we just lost a bit of colour on this front seat. And the worst bit about the interior is on this door jamb, our previous owner has obviously pushed something regularly down the back of the seat, and it's sort of worn all this leather trim away. That is the worst bit of the interior. Apart from that, everything's pretty good. I love all this spruce green secondary leather, as they call it, and I haven't quite decided yet what this interior colour is, but suffice to say we'll try and identify it and then recover it. But all in all, he's pretty good. I'll join you inside. There we go. So exhaust look grand, rear diff, oh look, and no oil leaks that are visible. So so it looks pretty good under here, I would suggest. All sort of makes sense with the low mileage, I would think. So yeah, a Bentley GT Continental undercarriage. I think that was pretty good. I'm quite pleased with that. Definitely. Little B on the tyre signifies Bentley fitment, apparently. So the Pirelli P0s seem to be in good nick. Brake discs are in good nick. So, and all the under trays present and correct. So, welcome to Bertie's Interior. So I thought I'd give you a quick resume of how I came about Bertie and the decision-making process. He was advertised on eBay, and he was advertised for 12 grand or best offer, but on a 7-day auction, if I remember rightly, with a few pictures, not a huge amount. The details were a little bit sketchy. It said one owner from new, low mileage, 37,000 miles, and that was about it really. So I watched it, nobody bid on him, nothing happened, he vanished off eBay. But I did manage to get a contact number from that advert, and so I made contact with the guy that had advertised him, and he was still available. He explained to me that he was selling it on behalf of the owner, who was not medically fit enough to be able to sell the car, but that's why the car was being sold. And he was a good friend of the family, etc., etc. So that didn't fill me with a lot of confidence. I didn't really quite. We're all suspicious when we're buying a car. We're all suspicious, aren't we? We feel like somebody's about to do us. That's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, when you're buying a car. So, and that's why a lot of us go to dealers and buy it from dealers with a bit of pedigree and a bit of backup and all the rest. So when you buy a privately owned car, you do take a bit of a risk. However, I basically said, look, have you got the V5 in your name to prove it belongs to you and that it's one owner car and all? Yep. So immediately he sent me a copy of the V5, and this is it here. First thing I noticed was it was registered to a company name. So I tried to research the company name, couldn't find it on Company's House anywhere. I also noticed that it said number of former keepers 2, and it's supposed to be a one owner car, and that means it's in its third hand effectively. However, when I went back to the guy, I said, yeah, thank you for sending that, but who's this company that it's registered to? It doesn't come up on Company's House. He explained it was a Dutch company, or Dutch registered company, and also that the owner had the car registered in his own name and 2 companies that he was a director of, which I've got a business. I know what vehicles sometimes they can be swapped around for all kinds of reasons, and on the V5. So that sort of rang a bell. He then volunteered of his own accord to send me a copy of his passport to prove who he was, that he was legitimate and the car was legitimate. So that filled me with a little bit more confidence, and we went from there really. The next thing was, did he have permission to sell the car? And so I asked about that, and he replied with this letter of authorization pretty quick, within a few minutes. And I could see that I was dealing with a guy who certainly knew his onions, and he was good to talk to on the phone, and I started building up a rapport with him, and we got along quite well. I also researched the MOT history on the car. I did find an anomaly, and if you look it up you can get these readouts, and if you don't know how to do it, I will show you in this video. But it's easy to check sort of recent MOT history on cars. I'm sure most of you can do it or have done it. There was an anomaly, and it's on this actual certificate here. So the mileage in 2021 MOT was 36,262. In 22 it was 37,004, and then in 23 it was 36,824. So it had dropped by 150 miles. I can only think that there was a mistake made on one of those readings, and it was someone pressed the wrong key. I'm taking it as a genuine mistake, because everything else checks out on the car, and I didn't get a chance to examine much of the history. The car was being part exchanged against another vehicle by the owner's son, and so clearly they'd got it underwritten, and they were just seeing if they could make a few quid extra on it, and who wouldn't. So there was a time element in terms of buying the car. I think I spoke to him on the Wednesday. The car was going to be driven to the garage and part exchanged on the Saturday. So I paid a deposit. I paid £5,000 deposit on my offer of £9,000, which they accepted. So that was a bit of a risk, but by that point I'd satisfied myself that the guy I was dealing with was straightforward, and he sent me a receipt for the deposit, on the proviso that I would come down, check the car over, and pay the rest of the money when I picked it up. And that's the video that some of you may well have seen of me going to pick up the car. I went on the train down to Worthing and drove it back, and I got this sort of information, and there's some real interesting stuff in here. There's not a huge amount of paperwork with the car. I'm guessing because it's been registered in 2 company names, a lot of the invoices would get filed in the company as they would on the accounts. So, but there's some interesting stuff. There's a service book. The last full service on the car was at 20,000 miles by the local Bentley agent. In fact, it was 19,960, and I've just had the car serviced at 37,601. So it's done 17,500 miles between services. Not the end of the world. It would have been better if it had a servicing among there, but in view of the mileage that it's done, so date wise we are, sorry about this, but I'll, so that 19,960 was on the 21st of the 8th, 07. So 17, 10 years, so another 17 years ago. So in 17 years it's done 17,000 miles. So it's done 1,000 miles a year in the last 17 years, which is next to nothing. And I'm afraid if it was my car and it was running all right, I wouldn't have had it serviced. There are invoices for some quite expensive parts on it. At 36,000 miles, it had the two front pneumatic, because these cars have got variable dampers on them and they can lift and lower. So it had the two front suspension units replaced. They're £550 each. It wasn't done at a Bentley garage, it was done at the local garage that also MOT'd it. And there's also in here, there's a receipt for the deposit that was made to buy this car, or to put a hold on it. So there's a receipt for a £2,000 deposit on this car made in 2002. So that's a nice little bit of history, because these cars didn't actually start being sold until late 2003, and this car is a 2004 car. So here's the receipt for that deposit made on the 26th of the 11th 02. So towards the end of 02, £2,000 cash deposit, and a receipt from the Bentley garage for that £2,000. And then rather nicely, there's also a piece of paper for a 1993 Bentley Continental GT that was part exchanged in sapphire blue. So yeah, there's quite a bit of good information. So, and yeah, so we've basically given there a good service, replaced all the spark plugs. It had six of the cylinders had misfires. After we replaced the spark plugs, we were down to cylinder number 6 with the misfire, the only misfire. So we replaced the coil pack on number 6, and now she's running like a dream. MOT wise, nothing to do. It passed with flying colours. 2 advisories for pitted rear discs. So the story continues. I have enjoyed every minute of driving this car. It is gorgeous. The fit and finish inside here it's a 20-year-old car now. There's no bumps, rattles, squeaks. The headlining needs doing, and I'm going to have a go at that myself, I suspect. I might find a suitable mate, Mr. Bentley on a budget. I'm guessing I'm going to have a word with him and see if he'll give me a hand, and we'll do a video on that. We'll keep you up to date with running the car, but all we need to do at the minute is recharge the gas on the aircon. I think is the only outstanding fault that I've found on the shakedown since it came back from the service. So yeah, all's good. So we'll see you next time. Hi, so I said I'd just show you how to do a quick MOT check on a car if you're not familiar with it. So I'll turn you around. And here we go on my mobile. So type into Google, other web browse search engines are available. Just put MOT Check. Search. This is obviously in the UK. There you go, the first one that comes up, government.uk, check MOT history of a vehicle. Click on that. And there we go, check the MOT, read, start now. Click on there. And then we need the registration number, which is GX54SUO, I believe, SUO. Done. Continue. Hopefully. There we go. Bentley Continental. Okay, there she is. Green. Tells you the car, so you can identify the car. Tells you the MOT is valid until the 23rd of April 2026. And if you want to do, you can go through the MOT history. So you can see when it passed, where it passed, if there was any advisories on it, and you can follow the history back with the mileage, and you can see that it failed there for a near side repeater lens missing, etc, etc. So that's what you do, and that's how you can easily check up on the history of a car that you either have or that you're looking to buy. So that's quite a useful thing to do. I'm sure most of you are doing it, but there you go.